Poke the Bear is brought to you by Prize Picks.
And welcome into Poke the Bear episode 327, presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5. I am Evan Marinofski. That is Conor Ryan. Conor, what is up?
Evan, my brain kind of hurts a little bit because I was doing a lot of the numbers, looking at the lottery, all these things. I thought it was going to be like Keno, kind of was, but then I was looking at all the combinations. My brain's fried a little bit, but other than that, I'm here. I'm good. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. It'd be fun playing Keno right now. Sitting there at a convenience store, like putting the numbers together, you know.
At the bar.
Incredible. It's always fun when a bar has Keno. I've never played Keno, but I always see it, and it's like a fun, like Massachusetts staple. So, yeah, I've never done it before, but looks fun, I guess.
Probably have better luck than the Bruins would. So,
damn right. Bruins got porked. Worst case scenario for them happened Monday night. Pick number 7. And before we came on here, you made me privy to this. The Twitter account Marcusi. I want to make sure I'm saying this right. MARCUSSI_MA tweeted a video that the Bruins needed one of 7 or 14 to win the second drawing for the draft lottery. Right when the timer hit 0, Boston's number 7 was perfectly in the chute, as they called to draw the last sequence number. If that had happened a second earlier, the Bees would have picked second overall. Right there, Connor. Right there. Michael Misa, the jerseys could have been made last night, but alas, no dice.
Tell you what, this is, people who want the Bruins to blow things up and are like, just suck for a couple years. You have kicking the ball nights like this, though, where all of a sudden, let's say you were even worse than you were, and you were, all right, like, worst case, they're going to get a top 3 pick. And then, like, the other team in the East, I crap on the Kraken. That almost was a tongue twister. I crap on the Seattle Kraken. Yes. I don't like them very much, Evan. The East equivalent of that are the New York Islanders, that boring-ass team. And if you were, like, let's say, a team in the top 3, and they leapfrog you with a 3.5% chance to get the number 1 pick and throws your whole plans out of whack, this is the downside of doing the full blow things up, rebuild, is that you don't always catch the right breaks. I know people were thinking that Gary Bettman was going to put the fix in and it was going to be Bruins and the Penguins or something like that. Penguins actually came pretty close to getting the number 1 pick. Their odds were very high. And I was like, you got to be shitting me if that was what the situation was. But this is the ups and downs, and usually it's more downs than ups in terms of what you have to go through when you are kind of starting from scratch. So if you're the Bruins, you don't want to be in this spot all that much. people are like, well, we'll try to get McKenna next year. What if you're worse? And all of a sudden the Seattle Kraken, who are in the 6, have 6 best odds, they get number 1 and get McKenna. Like,
we'll have to put you in a rubber room if Gavin McKenna goes to the Kraken.
God help us. So again, this is the tough part about being in these rebuilds, and it's not ideal when you are put in these spots because it's not always your best laid plans usually never end up working out. So for the Bruins' sake, a tough break, right? They're still, again, if we're going to just sum things up, like they are still going to get a very good prospect, I think. It's just you're not getting the immediate impact of what would have happened if you moved up to a top 2, or if, let's say, you stayed at 5, you at least probably get your pick of one of those, tier 2 centermen that are out there. Now it's kind of like you're either going to have to pick the final one. You don't have to say of who's going to be available, or it also opens the door of a lot more risk, right? Where all of a sudden, instead of, let's say it's OBrien's the last one there of that tier 2 kind of guys, do you just stick with him? But if you weren't high on him, then you're entertaining a guy with red flags like Roger McQueen? Are you looking at maybe a late riser like a Brady Martin who's bumped up the charts? Like, you are inviting more risk, I would probably say, in terms of where you are now, as opposed to if you were 5, you're like, all right, well, we'll take one of Denoyer or Frenell. It's going to be a good player. Now you have to not second guess, but a lot more variance, I think, is there, which if you're the Bruins, it doesn't matter if it's, you would have loved a guy like Misa. He's not the same type of player as a guy like Denoyer or even a guy like Martin, right? They have different floors, different ceilings. Whatever the case may be, you need to hit on this pick. It needs to be a good NHL player that is going to move the needle and help your core out moving forward. That has to be the priority here with where you are in the draft order.
I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that's another thing to go back to your point of like the people who want to blow it up and do this for the next 3-4 years. You want to rely on the ping pong balls every year. Like I agree. And I think most people would agree with this. The draft is the best way to add. The draft is the best way to get franchise defining players, to get pillars, Pasternak, McAvoy, Swayman, a 4th rounder. But relying on it to, we got to get the number 1 pick, or we've got to try to get Gavin McKenna next year is a bad idea, because you saw it on Monday. I mean, the Islanders jump all the way up to number 1, which is just absurd, and push San Jose out of there. Now, San Jose might not get their number 1 defenseman that they probably wanted. So that's one thing you have to consider. I completely agree on you're still getting a really good player. And I think that's the one thing where it's like, it's worst case scenario in not a horribly bad situation. Like it's not great, but it's still relatively pretty good. I think when you look at the draft board, when you look at which prospects are in that top 10, you're still getting a really good player. There's a drop right after you. It seems like there's a drop right around 8, 9, 10. And that's where it gets debatable, or even more debatable. That's where it becomes like, all right, we need a big defenseman. We're going with Mertka. Or we need a speedy winger. We're going with Eklund. That's where that comes in. At 7, you're still probably picking best available. You're still probably picking best available. And I will say, Connor, this is a weird top 10 because, yes, Schaefer seems to be consensus as 1, but I don't see him as the surefire number 1. He missed a lot of this season. I think he's a phenomenal defender. I think he's probably the best skater in the class. But, I mean, it's hard to overlook Misa. I was reading Chris Peters from Flow Hockey. He had a mock draft out on Monday night. He had the Islanders taking Hagens. So, again, like, not saying Hagens is the number 1 pick, but I think this draft could go in many different ways. And we'll talk a little bit about, who can they get. It's not crazy to think. I mean, I don't think it's likely, but it wouldn't be insane if Desnoyers is available at 7. Frenell, I have a tough time seeing dropping. Hagens, I don't see dropping to that point. But, I think if one of those teams, if you mentioned, I almost want to say Billy Martin, but you mentioned Brady Martin. Like if that stock continues to rise as more and more people get aware of his game and like it, is he picked in the top 5? They trying to get like a Matthew Tkachuk down the middle and they go and get Brady Martin. And then that drops everybody down. Maybe, I don't know. So that's the other thing I think people have to realize with this pick. And the other thing is, last night when I did that live Bruins beat, I went through the last, I think since 2006. Oh my God. 2006. 2000. Yeah, it's totally Tony Hawk, man. Since 2006, I went through all the number 7 picks. A lot of good players in there.
I was going to say, I feel like it's a good sweet spot, right?
That is a pretty good, and people are like, does that mean you think that, they're going to nail it? No, but I think they should nail it. Like if Quinn Hughes, Mark Scheifele, Jake Voracek's in there. Dylan Cousins was one that sticks out. Michkov was a number 7 pick. Like you should not swing and miss on this. You should not swing and miss. And I think this kind of raises the onus where in 5-10 years, I don't think we should be sitting here if they miss being like, lottery balls didn't fall their way. It's like, no, like you're still getting a really good player. You've got to make a hit on this.
Yeah, I think when you look at who's going to be available at that spot, I think you're going to find someone who's going to be a impact, steady NHLer. And does that mean it's necessarily going to be a center? No, I think it would be ideal if it was. And I think you have to brace for that scenario where, let's say there's a run on centers and all of a sudden that means like, what if a guy like Martone drops, right? I don't know if that will be the case, but maybe it's someone like him. Maybe if there's a run on centers and you don't want to take a flyer on someone like McQueen or something like that, is the, I don't know how you pronounce his last name, the Czech Mratka,
I think it is.
Murka. Again,
I'm
not
also really bad with pronunciation.
Yeah. So apologies. But is that an ideal fit no, like you need help down the middle. But if he is a 6'5" right shot D that can step in pretty soon, like that's value, right? Like it's not what you're necessarily targeting, but you can see where he could be in the lineup for a long time moving forward. Maybe it's a guy like Eklund, who's again not a big guy, but super skilled, like could be a 30-goal guy in the next couple of years, especially if he's on the same trajectory as his brother, who's already looking like a really dynamic top 6 player.
He was also a number 7 pick. William Eklund was a number 7 pick by the Sharks a few years ago.
And I want to say his brother is, I think, regarded a little bit, or he's got more skill, I think is what they say, that he's going to be a really dynamic guy. You could use a player like that. So again, center is the most important thing. That's what I think we all agree is the top focus. But let's say if the draft board changes or something surprising happens and there is a run on guys, and OBrien, who everyone thought was going to be definitely available between 6 and 8, is going higher, and all of a sudden another team panics. It's like, oh shit, like we want Desnoyers if he's dropping. Like, I think even if like your best laid plans and your contingency options kind of dissipate, you can still pivot, and maybe it's not the ideal thing, like Martin or Eklund or Mraka or someone like that. It's not the immediate need, but I still think you're getting a really good player that I think, hell, like Martin or Eklund or Mraka could be in the lineup like in a year or two, right? Whereas like I think OBrien, I think if he's there, you take him, right? Really skilled playmaker. He's probably like 2 years away, I would say. Like he's like 168. He's got to work on his skating a little bit. So I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to the fact that you are going to get a solid player. The one thing that's going to really suck, Evan, though, is I feel like what is going to happen, we've got a lot of teams in front of you that desperately need centers. There is going to be like a white whale that's going to drop. And all of a sudden it's going to be like, holy shit, like Desnoyers or Frenell or like maybe Hagens. I don't think so, but let's just say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Team gets spooked. They think Brady Martin's a safer pick and he's in the top 5 and Hagens drops. And all of a sudden he's at 6. And you're like, wow, Philly's going to grab him. Philly is going to grab a center like that. They will take the best available center. So even if there is a slip up and someone you're really excited for is going to drop, that I think is where it's going to really sting, is that Philly's still in front of you at a pretty pivotal spot in the lineup or on the draft order where, again, you should have a center available that's not just McQueen, who, again, I think is a really risky pick. But you're not going to have your choice of options there. It's not going to be like, all right, we got OBrien, we got Martin, and we got Desnoyers. Pretty good situation to be in. It's like, all right, here's who we got left, or do we pivot? And again, you've got options, but it's still not, you don't have the full available options in terms of how you want to upgrade your play down the middle moving forward.
It's funny because I think OBrien, in the mock drafts I've read, and I think when you look at where he ranks, OBrien to me feels like the most likely pick for the Bruins right now. Good playmaking center, might be the best playmaker in the draft. A lot of power play points, which can be concerning, but also he is really good on the power play, and there is something to be said for that. And the Bruins power play could certainly use some work in the next coming years. I said this to Joey Capone last night. Jake OBrien comes up, gets to play with a guy like Pastrnak or a guy like Mitchie Mana, and suddenly you're cooking. Like that's a good fit for him to come up and to play into.
Sure sounds like a Bruin.
He does.
I know he's from Toronto, I believe, but sure sounds like a Bruins player.
You're behind him with that name, OBrien. I think that works. Yep. But as you said, like, could someone fall? Absolutely. I mean, every NHL team has their own draft board. They see the draft rankings out there. They see Central Scouting or Elite Prospects or Hockey News or The Athletic or Flow Hockey. They have their own rankings. That's why you see like Beckett Seneca a few years ago, or was it last year, going really high. That's why you see Leo Carlson going 2 instead of Fantilli, who was widely considered to be the number 2 pick in that draft. Like, it is not insane. I think you see this Brady Martin kid who tore it up at Worlds and, is
a wrecking ball.
Wrecking ball. I mean, and that's the thing, like with the NHL playoffs going on right now, not that he's playing as I know he played in Worlds, but he's not going to be playing the next couple months. But like the playoffs are going on, Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett and the physicality of those guys, they're going to be teams who are like, we want that kind of guy. We want a guy who's going to, just run through people. So maybe he jumps up. Maybe a Desnoyers falls. even though he's been tearing it up in the Q playoff. So like
even Frenell had a bad U18
he
tournament.
Did.
I think
He
that's
did.
kind of, again, I don't know how far he's going to drop because I still really like Frenell. But as you said, between now and I mean, the draft's not until what, June 27th? Whole lot can change between now and then. So,
and the other thing is like Frenell and Hagens both, some have said could end up being wingers. So does a team in the top 6 or top 5 say, let's go for a more, like, we know this guy is going to be a center. We're confident he's going to be a center. And then you end up with Frenell at 7. I don't see that happening. And the other thing is like a guy like Desnoyers, he's kind of ranked everywhere. He's not a consensus top 5. I think we've treated him as a top 5 for a while based on the Bruins needs. And there are some that have him in that top 5. Some have him even higher. But there are a lot of others that have him like 8 or 9.
Central Scouting has him 7. They have OBrien 4, I want to say, among North American skaters. So,
and that's just North American skaters. Like, that's the other thing. Like that, if you're 7 for North American skaters, that means you're more like 10, 11, 12 in the grand scheme of things, most likely, because they have a bunch of international skaters too. So, because I always run into that with New England, because people are like, oh, so-and-so is ranked, a 3rd rounder according to Central Scouting. And I'm like, that doesn't really mean a lot.
There's 5 Czech guys that are kind of bumping him down the list, right?
Like, that's why that kid's picked in the 6th round instead. So, I think it's entirely possible that someone falls to them. And I also think they get someone good. My gut, though, tells me that Jake O'Brien is the likely guy as of now. And I think that's fine. Like, I said this to you and Ty Anderson last night. That's a fine pick. I think that's like, okay, cool. Like, I'm assuming you're picking Jake O'Brien. He's the best center available at that time. I don't see a huge difference between Jake O'Brien and like a Victor Eklund in that spot. Brady Martin, I think there's still a lot of work to be done on him, given that he's kind of made this late push. Maybe, I think the way he plays is awesome. It's just like, is there the skill there to consistently do that? We saw him on that nice goal he scored at Worlds where he's dangling through people. My thing with the dangles, I love the dangle videos, Connor. They're sexy. They're fun to watch. Not exactly applicable to the NHL.
And then you got a 215-pound defenseman who's been in the league for 10 years, just walloping the shit out of you, and you try to pull that.
Yeah, you're not going to do that to Radko Gudas. Like, you're not going to do that to Colton Parayko. And I see some of the defense in like the OHL on some of these highlights with guys like Misa, and I'm like, yeah, it's cool and all, but like, there's no defense there. Like, that guy's doing nothing to intrude him from going to the net. Do you have a preference right now on someone at 7?
I mean, I would probably say
Michael Misa at 7.
Yes, of course. I think it's only that. Yeah, it makes plenty of sense. Yeah, if barring, one of those guys dropping like Frenell or maybe Desnoyers, like I think that's your top priority. If O'Brien is there, I think makes the most sense. Like, I can see the appeal of a guy like McQueen, but like the back injury, the fact that like his skating isn't really all that great, and O'Brien's skating isn't elite by any means, but like O'Brien kind of reminds me a little bit of like a guy like Krejci, where like he's not flashy, but has a gift of being a great poised playmaker and makes things happen. And I think like with O'Brien, you're adding a guy who maybe is 2 years down the road, but has legitimate top 6 potential. I think if you're the Bruins, you have to add someone who's got a really not even a high ceiling that factors into it, but someone that you can project is going to be in a featured role. Same reason why like Marek is probably on their list, because he's probably a top 4 guy for the next 10 years. Same as you have to consider a guy like Eklund, right? Martone, if they're there, top 6 impact, wingers. And so I think O'Brien probably makes the most sense, and he's probably got the best shot of being there when the Bruins do get on the clock at number 7. But I do have like a gut feeling that I feel like Martin's going to be in that mix. I feel like where he's rising up the charts now, people have a lot of good things to say about how he is off the ice, his leadership. I know that's Bruins fans going to roll their eyes over that kind of stuff, but it does make an impact. And if he's a guy that, maybe he's not like O'Brien could be a 75-point second line center at the NHL level. And you will take that. Same as like our argument with like Desnoyers. If he's a 2-way 70, 60-point guy, you could use a guy like him. Maybe Brady Martin's more of like, the most you're going to get is 55 points, but he's going to be a fucking menace. He's going to be a souped up Sam Bennett, maybe without the sucker punches. A guy like that has a lot of impact on a team if maybe he's not the flashiest guy. And so for the Bruins, if you're looking at, we need to hit on someone that's going to be a lineup regular, maybe not a franchise superstar, but someone that is considered a hit and is going to help our team moving forward. I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to have a lot of Brady Martin conversations between now and June. Just feels like a guy that if his stock is continuing to rise up there, the Bruins could look at him and be like, that's a guy we want.
I think we're going to have a lot of talks about Brady Martin. The things I've watched of him and read.
He is fun. He is fun
I think,
to watch.
did you see the tweet? I forget who it was by, and I apologize for not citing this person. They went off the J Fresh like stuff per 60 stat, and then the CHL. Brady Martin is like the leader in stuff per 60, which basically just means you're doing the most amount of things. Yes, you're chaotic, but in a good way. And he's that. He's in the CHL, which is the OHL, the QMJHL, and the WHL. He leads everybody in that. There's value in that. Like, there is value in that. And he's 6 feet. He plays bigger than he is, competes his ass off. Oh my God. And so
shit talker, like drives aggressive on the forecheck, has skill, even if maybe he's not the same ceiling, like makes things happen, which again, that can translate more to the NHL than like maybe someone that's like a McQueen, where it's like you look at the profile. If Martin's just skating his balls off, like he's going to make things happen. Does that mean he's a 70-point guy at the next level? Maybe not, but like if he's 50 points and he's making things happen, like I look at, Milan Lucic, had 130-goal season, 160-plus point season,
and most were empty netters. Not most, but like 6 or 7 of those were empty netters.
Like, did the points paint the picture as to what impact a guy like he has? Does like Sam Bennett, looking past the sucker punches and shit, he's had 150-point season? I'm not saying the Bruins. Let's preface this. I'm not saying the Bruins should sign Sam Bennett, but is his value just tied into the fact like, well, he's only got 150-point season? He makes shit happen, good and bad, every time he's out there, and he helps his team win, which is the most important thing. Like, you can see why a team could get enamored by what a guy like Brady Martin could do at the next level.
I think that's the biggest thing with a guy like Martin is, you're in a division, and I don't like this. I don't like the line of thinking of, I need to draft for what's around me. I need to draft to beat the Panthers or the Leafs, because the reality is you have to draft what's going to help you the most and what's going to help your identity. Because you don't know if the Panthers are going to be there in 2 years or 3 years, or the Leafs are going to be there, or, we need to prepare for the Canadians. Let's get a bunch of big guys to knock around Cole Caulfield. You need to just create an identity and find guys, the best possible guys. Like, that's the biggest thing. Brady Martin does help you, though, in a playoff scenario. Like, I'm imagining that guy, I'm projecting that guy to be really effective in those big moments and to be effective in those big games, as you mentioned. So I think we are going to talk. I mean, I think if I had to say, like, my dream at 7 is Desnoyers. My dream is he falls to you at 7. That's awesome. But I think the likely pick is OBrien, and I think Brady Martin's right there as well. And I think
you could be convinced. Well. You could be easily coerced into seeing why Martin or Eklund makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Merca, I'm a little more hesitant on, solely because I think the second round, you have 2 picks in the second round. That's to me where you should get your big right shot defenseman. He's from Maine. His name is Carter Amico. And he's going to BU next year. But that's those are my 4 guys as of now that I think will be in and around that spot that you end up hoping to take. So not the best, but as I said yesterday on that live Bruins beat Joey and I did, we started off kind of mad. And then as we talked it out and sort of flushed things out as human beings do, it's like, it's not as bad as we think it is. It's not fun. It's not flashy. It's not like, the number 1 pick or number 2 pick or even number 5. Oh, you get Frenell, you take Hagens, you take Desnoyers, Martone. Not 7. It's not as flashy, but
it's not like Celtics in 07, right? Where it's like, well, all right, well, if we don't get number 1 and get Greg Oden, like that Durant guy is pretty good. Jeff Green, what the fuck? Like that's bad. That is like catastrophic, especially in that sport. Like the Bruins are going to get a good player.
Very good player. Absolutely. Something else that's very good, or I'd argue great, amazing, incredible. It's our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, you cash in on the basketball playoffs and the hockey playoffs with Prize Picks. Don't miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's points, rebounds, assists, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. Turn your playoff hot takes into tickets to basketball's championship series. Starting with the play-in round, every lineup you make on Prize Picks will enter you in the Takes to Ticket sweepstakes, which could get you and a +1 a VIP trip to the ship. Connor, I'm taking you. If I win, I'm taking you. They're my +1, buddy. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Join millions of users and sign up today. Also, every Tuesday, Prize Picks will discount several projections on the board, usually by 15 to 25%. And there's also Flex Fridays. Make sure you opt in and tap the checkbox in your lineup builder to be eligible for the projected play. Choose squares from any game on the board. If your lineup does not win, you get your net losses back in promo funds up to your promo limit as soon as the lineup settles. Celtics are cooking right now in the basketball playoffs. Not after Monday night, but
just hit your threes.
Hit your threes. They'll be fine. So there's that. And then there's also the hockey playoffs. And that's been really exciting so far. Hell of a last couple days, which we'll get into in a second. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Go run your game over at Prize Picks. So Don Sweeney spoke late Monday night about the pick. He punched a hole in the wall. Said, man, I really wanted that number one pick. I think he threw his glasses at Ty. It was really an ugly scene from what I heard. It was something. Yeah. Unfortunately, he didn't do any of those things. He was fine. He was
for the record.
Just for the record, I don't want to get a call. It was fine. He was fine. But he talked about the coaching decision that's looming. And he says they've spoken to some coaching candidates and started to narrow their list. Next step is Zoom interviews and then in person. Some candidates, he says, are still coaching. Now, there's one name that's risen to the top. It feels like when you think about, candidates that are still in the playoffs, Dallas Stars, Misha Donskov, a name that Ty Anderson brought up back in like the winter. And we've talked about him a little bit. An assistant for Dallas, a guy who, from everything I've read, is a pre-scout and film guru. This is a guy who can pick apart another team like it's nothing. Was a big analytics guy for the Vegas Golden Knights before jumping on the bench. He helped create that Vegas team before they even became a thing, before they started playing. He wasn't in 2013 like, I'm going to create the Vegas Golden Knights.
He was out playing blackjack one day, had a few drinks, was just staring at the sky. Like, I'm going to build the best fucking hockey team in this desert.
You won't believe what I'm going to cook up. So like, but this is a guy who, and he was on Team Canada's roster for coaches. He was the only assistant who was actually an assistant in the NHL. It wasn't just a head coach. The more I read about this guy, the more I'm like, yes. But I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I think where you're looking at, you're trying to, again, check off the list of who's still in the playoffs, right? I know people have mentioned Savad. He's a guy that has the ties.
Craig Berube keeps like hitting him every time he celebrates a goal.
Yeah, I know. Yes. So like you have that. But yeah, I think Donskov, if I had my pick right now, I think he'd be not my favorite in terms of like leader in the clubhouse. He'd be who I would want because I think he's an outside, hire, right? Not tied to the Bruins family. But I think kind of checks off all the boxes of what you're looking for, like a new coach getting his first opportunity as a head coach, 47 years old, and like what his strengths are at and what his body work all, ties into is like, again, exploiting matchups, developing talent, identifying the right players to help a team win. And he's just one of those guys where he's not the first guy that comes to mind, right? If you're just a fan looking at potential coaching hires, like the Bruins hire Misha Donskov, I know people are going to be like, who? Yeah. It's like, no, who's this Russian guy? He's from Canada. I know people thinks he's like from like Belarus or something. No, he's from Canada. And he's just a guy that even if he's been kind of a behind the scenes guy for, the start of his pro hockey coaching career, everywhere he's gone, teams have had success. And it's like you can trace it back to a lot of spots where he's been at. Like he was with the London Knights for 3 years. And they've been a wagon for years, right? With Hunter and his crew running that team. But he was there for 3 years and they've churned out so many, effective NHL players over the years. Goes to Vegas, was director of hockey operations and analytics there before they were even a team, as you said. Like we're in 2016. All right, we have a team here. What are we going to do? Was an essential part of working with guys like George McPhee, McCrimmon, all those executives to build that team out and set the foundation for what they are now. Was there as an assistant coach for 4 years, over a lot of turnover, was still there with Bruce Cassidy during his first year, wins a cup, goes to Dallas, which again has been one of the shining examples, right? Dallas of adding, impact players on the fly, developing young talent. And he's been there now for the last 2 years. And as you said, like, it's a testament to, I think, how he's respected around the league that, on a Four Nations coaching staff where it's John Cooper is the head coach, but the assistants are all the best of the best, right? You have Cassidy, Pete DeBoer, Tocchet was there, all these established coaches. And then you have Donskov as an assistant on that staff. Again, Four Nations Canada team that was built by Don Sweeney. So he clearly knows this guy. So the ties are there, the connections are there, and he just feels like a guy that if you're looking at a younger coach to take a chance on to build with this team, why not have it be a guy that has the track record, has the resume, and also has the expertise at not just the X's and O's and the matchups and that, but at building a team, finding the right players, and changing, systems and how you want to play to today's NHL. Like, you look at what Vegas has done, what Dallas has done, you want to be a team like that. And I think what's been the correlation between the London Knights to Vegas to Dallas is a guy like Misha Donskov. So I think that's the guy you have to really look at, and is a guy that makes a lot of sense for this team moving forward.
Completely. And I think you even look at his history, and going back to 2001, he's been involved in coaching in some capacity. He hasn't really ever been a head coach for a team full time. But again, like director of hockey ops and, an assistant and a guy that's just so important behind the scenes, that guy's got to get a head coaching shot. And we've said, like, find the next Spencer Carberry. And as you just said, like, working with guys like Pete DeBoer and Bruce Cassidy and at Team Canada and being held in a high enough regard to be an assistant on Team Canada when you are not a head coach in the NHL is as high as it gets for an assistant. So I go back to, like, he's a pretty safe gamble. Like, the whole idea of getting a guy like Carberry is you are kind of taking a gamble on someone who hasn't been an NHL head coach before, but the signs are, like, pretty much all there that this dude can handle it and can be a really good one. And I'm all for that. And I think when you look at other names like a Marco Sturm, for instance, he's a name that's been brought up a lot. He's been the head coach of the Ontario Reign the last 3 years in the AHL after being an assistant with LA since, I think, 2018. Clearly has a lot of coaching experience, and I would assume, I haven't heard anything. I wonder if they're talking to him, has the ties to the organization. Donskov's just been around longer and is same age, or, maybe 2 years older. But to me, like, Donskov feels like the one. It just comes down to, again, I would assume if we're talking about him and, the Bruins are doing their due diligence on him, other teams probably are as well. Chicago has an opening. Philadelphia has an opening. So the Kraken. But again, if he listens to us, I gotta say, if Misha listens to Bruins Beat and Poke the Bear, I don't think he's going to Seattle. I don't think he's going to the Kraken.
I hope not.
I don't think so. So, but there are other openings. Anaheim's another one. So I think he might have a ton of suitors, and maybe you're in a position to outbid for him. But again, we will see on that. And then the playoffs. Second round is underway. Hell of a way to end the first round. 2 incredible game 7s. Like, both teams that ended up winning looked dead in the third. And it was like, all right, well, that's, and then it's funny because, like, after the Stars-Avs game, and I'm watching Blues-Jets, I'm like, all right, Blues will win this one. Kind of a dud of a game, whatever. After last night, I got, at least we had last night. That was a hell of a game. And then Winnipeg scores with under 2 minutes left, and then they score with 1.6 seconds left. What have you thought so far of the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, those games over the weekend were just unbelievable. It's crazy because I think I said this before. The first round for a while was shaping up to be a dud, right? You had a whole lot of, like, feel like it was going to be 5-game series, and then some of these games just went off the rails and were really entertaining. And I think if you're looking from the Bruins perspective, right, I think especially that Dallas game once again reinforces that you can have, great depth. You can, like, make all the right moves like Colorado did, getting guys like Nelson and Coyle, and they already got a lot of stat talent. The only reason why Dallas came back and won that game is because they also have a lot of fucking superstars on their side that balled out at the time you need. And it's also, it goes again, is Mikko Rantanen the same player as Mitch Marner? No. Mikko Rantanen's 6'4"? Doesn't really play like a power forward, I would say, but
no,
like, it validates that, in crunch time, in situations you need skill to take over, you need superstars on your team. And so I think, again, if you're a Bruins fan who doesn't want Mitch Marner, I don't know what to tell you, because a superstar put his team on his back in that game, and look what happened. So I think that's a lesson for that.
Put the team on his back.
Legitimately
on a broken leg.
Yeah, that was unbelievable what he did.
He didn't have a broken leg. It's an old reference.
He did not. Yes, that's Victor Hedman had a broken leg.
That's right.
He did not reel in a touchdown catch from Aaron Rodgers, though. I hope people get the reference, but
I hope people understand that reference.
But then you look at the Winnipeg game where everyone I think was like, man, this bum Hellebuck out of here. Comes back, like I mean, listen, it was ugly. Like, I'm not gonna change my tune on like, please make Jake Ottinger the starting goalie for Team USA in the Olympics, please. But man, that Jim Montgomery led team, man, 6-on-5 hockey. Yikes!
Don't talk about 6-on-5.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, not all of that. I guess he doesn't want to talk when the vibes aren't good. But oh well. Evan.
It just had, for all the people who were like down the stretch, the Bruins just had Jim Montgomery. They fired the wrong guy. You know, he would have willed them to the playoffs. Again, I go back to the first couple months. Nothing changed in those first 2 months. And I'm not saying Jim Montgomery's a bad coach. By the way, I'm not like, I don't want you to people.
He's great when it's just not 6-on-5 in the playoffs.
Well, that's the thing. And so again, the second half of that game was the Jim Montgomery special. Your team gets almost no shots in the third period, almost none in both overtimes.
Against a shaky-ass goalie.
Shoot the puck. Again, remember we used to say this about Bobrovsky in 2023. He is so bad. I think it was stuff up high. It was stuff up high, shots up high. Bobrovsky was not great with. Shoot the puck. Players were even saying, we need to shoot the puck more. And it just wasn't happening. And then you also just see a letdown in the final 2 minutes. So, that was not a huge surprise when you consider that. So hopefully that shuts a lot of those people up. The other takeaway I have, so I agree with you, need a superstar. Rantanen with a legendary, like, I'm him performance. My other thing is, I think you're going to see Sam Bennett's value skyrocket in these playoffs. Always finds a way to get under other teams' skin. Always finds a way to play on the edge. And this is the other thing, right? Like, the league does need to discipline him for certain things. I don't think I discipline him for the play on Stolars on Monday night. He's dirty, no doubt, but they never discipline him. So play away. Like, that's the playoffs. Like,
yeah,
it's fine that he plays like that.
The Martian one was so much more egregious, where it's like literally you can see that the other angle that comes out 2 days later, where it's like he literally has the arm cocked to land that like rabbit punch. Like, and again, that didn't lead to anything. So again,
and so
we'll see what happens when Ryan Reeves is in the lineup. Like, again, if you're not going to call anything, like, I have a feeling that series is going to get really fucking ugly, and the NHL is once again going to be like, and Paul Maurice is going to be like, let me spit some fire here. By the way, like the back and forth between Berube and Maurice in this series is going to be exhausting. It's going to be exhausting because like they are both the kings of the post game soundbite, gamesmanship, all those things. The refs are in for a hell of a time here over this stretch moving forward. But like, again, if you're Toronto or something, I know like I at least give Toronto credit in that game though, where it's something that I think the Bruins don't do enough of is like the Florida Panthers do their shit. They take out one of your top players, and instead of them being like, we got to get even with this team when like, they're not going to drop the gloves. They're not going to engage with you. You kick their fucking ass on the ice and you win.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. You want to get Florida shut up? Have them fucking sent home in May. Like, that's how you got to beat them. Like,
yes, 100%.
Bruins can never do that. Like,
nope, they got to get even. And it is true. Even as a fan, I'm like, come on, run into Bobrovsky, elbow straight to the skull, like take him out, or like Barkov, head first into the boards from behind, or so, like something like that. You know, I know. Well, I'm advocating for dirty stuff. That's playoff hockey. Martian said it last year, trying to injure the other team, and that's not right.
After getting punched in the face by Sam Bennett, literally was like on the record, no, we're all trying to hurt each other because when we hurt your guys, it gives our team a better chance to win. Like,
and again, Sam and the Panthers got back in the game. Like, they scored a bunch on wall, so like it works. So this is my take. Sam Bennett is going to raise his value a lot. He's going to be a UFA. He's a center, and he's someone that I do see some Bruins fans saying, "Wow, we need a lot of that." You don't. And it's not because you don't need to be tough. Could use a little bit of that. It's that he's 30 years old? does not have a season over, or has like one season over 50 points, I think.
I think it's this year, yeah.
And again, he feels to me like a sum of the parts guy. Like he fits like that team like a glove. And there's so many guys around him who are the same kind of identity. He comes here, it's different. He's also going to be older, so you're not getting the offensive output that you want out of a number one center. You're going to probably pay him $7 or $8 million. Teams will bid for him. There are going to be dumb teams that line up. Don't be one of those dumb teams that hands him a huge contract. Please don't be one of those teams. And you have enough centers on this roster who are like 50 to 60, 50 point guys. Zaka, Middlestat. You can throw Geeky in there. I almost said Coyle. Lindholm, like they're all in that same realm. You don't need another. There's no need for it. And if you want someone who's really tough, who's, get Sam Bennett in the
draft Brady Martin. Yeah, exactly.
Draft Brady Martin if you want that. Draft someone in the second round that plays to that identity. You don't need to spend all that money in free agency on him. I don't think.
I feel like Bennett's the kind of guy that, like, if you're a team that is retooling and needs just like high-end talent, he's not the guy that you should sign with that expectation. You're just going to leave disappointed. I feel like he's a guy that if you're already a playoff team, you need to get over the top and you have some money to spend and you're just adding a different element. Like, I don't think Dallas has the money. I don't know their cap situation, but I can't imagine they got money to burn, especially where they got to sign guys. But like a team like Dallas, let's say they come up short and they had $7 million to spare. That's the guy you add to your middle six that gets you ready to go, right? It's almost like, the Rangers who, again, I don't know what they are moving forward, but like a few years ago, they got Vinny Trocheck, and it's a perfect complement to their middle six, not a play driving guy that's going to shift the whole fortune of the team, but fits in, gives them a little bit of sandpaper, a little bit of playmaking, and helps them out moving forward. I think Sam Bennett's more of that guy, a useful player, but if you're the Bruins, he's not going to be a franchise savior, right? Like, I just can't see him being worth what the money's going to be to bring in a guy that helps you, but does he move the needle, or does he elevate or accelerate your rebuild, whatever you want to call it? I don't think so.
No, and that's where I think you need to, like, if you're going to spend big money in free agency, Marner's your guy. And if you want that kind of Bennett force, then you can get him in the draft. Like, draft that guy, whether it's this year, whether it's next year. Like, if you want that, it's like when people say you need go get Brady Tkachuk. Like, okay, if somehow that trade opened up, you can entertain it. But like, draft Brady Tkachuk, draft the next Brady Tkachuk. So that to me is the biggest thing with these playoffs, is that you're going to see Sam Bennett's value go way up. And I agree with you. I think for a team like the Stars or the Rangers or a team that's right on the cusp, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But no, you to be a number one center, I don't think you can fully bank on that. And he's getting older too. I will say, Connor, though, I like the player. I do. Yeah, I don't want him. No. I don't want him for that money. But like a guy you want on your side come the postseason. Yeah, no doubt. Dirty. All that, but you want him. Tom Wilson, same thing.
And he produces in the playoffs too. He's had some great plays, like just offensively. That
he scored in 4
nations. Some money play.
Right?
I mean, dude, it's like Binnington. I don't like Jordan Binnington. Kind of ruined the 2019. And he's kind of a prick, honestly. Like, from my very limited interactions with him, dude is money. You can talk about what he does, the fights, all those things, but dude is nails and steps up in big situations. You got to tip your cap to those kind of guys that deliver when the lights are the brightest. And Bennett, Bennington, all those guys, the reason why they're covered in the league is because they step up for the team when they really need it in the playoffs. So you tip your cap to them.
And you've got to draft those guys. Those are not guys you can just go trade for. You're not going to trade for Tom Wilson in his prime. Maybe you trade for him as like a prospect or something like that. But you don't just grab those guys out of free agency, because it's so hard to translate that exact game, that exact impact to a different team when you're not a play driving number one center or number one left wing. So yeah, we'll see what the playoffs is going to get better and better, which is always fun. Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, we're going to have you covered every step of the way this Bruins off season, looking at free agency, trades, the draft. Obviously, there's going to be plenty of stuff to talk about. The head coaching search. We will be very, very busy this summer, keeping you informed, up to date on everything going on with this team over the offseason. So you can read all my stuff at Boston.com and the Boston Globe. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofski. Book the Bear listeners. Have a great rest of your week.